Good morning. I'm back. I think I'm going to start date tagging these. Now, they are date tagged on the name of the video. The name of the video is Who Am I? And then the date. But today is, what is today? It is November the 5th. I think that makes it Election Day. Very interesting. Although I'm not going to be thinking a lot about the election today. As a matter of fact, I'm going to be doing my darndest to think about anything else. But I'm certainly not going to want to be sweating out this day, following it, play by play. Holy crap. No. Although I do believe that it is going to go down in history, this whole election. Like I've been saying, I wasn't the first one to say it. I heard a comedian say it a few months ago. And the more I think about it, the more that I know that this is true. And so it's not nearly as funny as it, we thought it all was. Actually, I'm still laughing about it, and it's not funny. Both of them are going to show up on January 20th, and I don't care which one of them gets elected. Well, that's not true. If Trump wins, Kamala is not going to show up. But if Kamala wins, Trump is showing up. Both of them are showing up to be inaugurated on the 20th with all of their followers behind them. And we might find ourselves in a state of civil war. That's the best news scenario. The worst news is that he wins and that there isn't any dispute about that. But then that's just when the nightmare starts. But I'm going to try not to pay attention to this because what you need to do is whatever you are focusing on needs to be a positive thing. And that most certainly is not a positive thing. None of that's positive. So what is the show? Who am I? Who am I? I have come to believe that the crossroads of all meaning comes through these three words. And so every day I dedicate an hour or two of my time, and I have learned to do it orally. I'm thinking out loud. Some of it, it's not purely thinking anymore, because when it comes out, then now I'm talking to somebody. And developing the skill of being able to talk to somebody when nobody is sitting in front of you, well, it's something I'm still working on. I've been working on it for the last, I've been recording me working on it for, since January, and I actually have over 200 videos on my channel, although I have to say, you know what I should do? I'm going to pause and do this right now. Hold on. I'll be right back. Remember, the show is Who Am I? The date is Election Day 2024. What is going to happen to us? So I'll be right back. I'm back. And never mind, that was too complicated. I thought it was just going to be a boom, 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 boom. And then I was going to see how many videos I actually had that were forward-facing. I think it's probably around 190, maybe 185, something like that. A few of my videos are unlisted, so I see a total that I don't think you see. But it doesn't matter. Who am I? I was saying that I think that the crossroads of all questions pass through these three words. Who am I? And us understanding how to deal with the problems facing humanity and the problems facing any individual human can all began to be resolved, at least, made better, improved through a better understanding of this question. Who am I? And who am I specifically in reference to source energy? And who am I specifically in reference to true reality, my true reality? Who am I really? And all the different frames that you can take that question from, large and small, all the way from the smallest, who am I in my dinky little self, which is actually big, so don't take me wrong. When I say podunk, I really don't mean its intrinsic value. Who am I? Who am I? Where do I begin? Who am I in reference to source energy, and what the F does that mean anyway? And what does it have to do with me, logger, trucker, nurse, waitress, bartender, rodeo clown? What does this mean to me? And how does this understanding affect me? Well, it affects us all because we are all a we. We really are a we. We don't have to get our picket signs and go out into the street and demand that we are a we, because we just are a we. And that's how come it's okay to be wonderfully diverse, to be absolutely, authentically your individual self, even if it is different than people around you. As a matter of fact, especially where it is different from the people around you. You need to, as long as it's authentically you, as long as it's coming from your positive side, as long as it's coming from you focused on something positive, being positive, looking positive, with your positive self, being your authentic self, then be as different as you can be. Knowing that we are all in this together. We are a oneness. We don't have to fight for that. We don't have to think like a group and walk in lockstep to be one with each other. That's actually an important message. It's a very important message. The lockstep and the groupthink is not what we want. That comes from following the wishes and the orders of a single individual at the top, instead of all of the elements throughout the group joyfully and spontaneously and to their own free agency impulses moving towards what they want from their authentic selves. That's actually the dance and play you want in front of us. If you're seeing a lot of group step and lockstep and groupthink anywhere, it's coming from that other form of order, top-down order from an authoritarian at the top. And in actual fact, that wouldn't be a problem, actually, if the monarch was benevolent, wise, kind, the rules were clear, the momentum of coherence was clear and long. I don't know how to say these words. That could be all right. The problem is, how do you make sure, generation to generation, that the autocrat at the top is always sane, is always himself balanced, and not in it for his own personal power, which they always are. The example is always this. So the reason that you have a person who's reaching for more and more and more and more power is because he himself feels helpless in a particular way. And I'm going to explain to you, because it came to me yesterday when I was doing the show. I was like, oh, wow, look at this. This is really interesting. It is interesting. So you have a person who blames everybody else, all the time. These people are to blame for this. Those people are to blame for that. What's happening over there is you got those people over to the right. They are the ones acting up, and they're causing that kerfuffle. That you see that right in the middle down there? That's being caused by those people. You know, Everyone is someone else, and something else, excuse me, is always to blame. And so on the one hand, if you give me the power, I will go kick some ass. I'm going to fix it. Those people are to blame here. I'm going to shake some. I'm going to hire my own people. I'm going to say what goes where and who does what. And that's really important. I'm going to do all of that. The reason that he wants so much outside power is because he thinks that all these people are to blame for all of the different issues. And while maybe, in a way, there's some truth to that, it's not really true. It's not, but there's just like an inky-winky element of truth over there about that, but it's not really. The thing is when you take the opposite tact, when you decide that the universe runs by law of attraction, that there is no such thing as assertion, and you can't insert, you can't insert an answer when no one has asked the question, for instance. You can't. There's no assertion in this universe of attraction. That's what Abraham says all the time. That that every point on the grid is attracting from its own position, and you can't insert from your side separate from that. I mean, if you are resonating with something, you could pull in with it and attract with it or have some influence over it, but you can't insert from a powerful point of attraction that doesn't include you. You can't do it. Your influence is off some other direction. It skims right off. It has no effect on the orbit of Jupiter. There's too much momentum going on over there. There's nothing I can do over here. I can even set off little bombs on the Earth, and it's still not going to affect that. There's too much momentum going on over there. It's the same kind of principle. But when you take the opposite tack, the law of attraction tack, what it says is that I am responsible 100% for all of my experience. All of my experience, I'm 100% responsible for it. And that's sort of the opposite of those people are to blame, and those people are to blame, and those people are to blame. Now, what I'm trying to get at here is that when you decide that it's all you, then you become all powerful. It means that I have the power to change the trajectory of my life and the state of my chaos or coherence, and thereby influence the greater field to some smaller degree, because the greater field is actually another degree up from the point on the grid that I am. It's another data, it's a scale up kind of in a way. You are your tiny self, then you are the biofield. Actually, it goes, there's a few increments smaller than that, but generally it's you are your individual self, and then you are your species. And then you are your biofield, and then you are the planet spinning, and then you are the solar system, and then you are the galaxy, and then you are the cluster, There's another vortex at the cluster, and then there's another vortex at the supercluster. And then the universe, which is a single black hole, and then, for all I know, universes are clustering together in clusters and superclusters. For all I know, I have no idea how big up the scale it goes. Probably as big as it can be imagined, and there's enough Lebensraum to fit any experience that any of us could possibly imagine ever, 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 ever. That's probably the true state of the nature of the universe. It boggles the mind. It really does. And so that's actually kind of what we're doing today. We're going to just kind of do a riffity riff. See if we can get some mind-boggling going as we talk about who am I and what the F is going on with my experience here on planet Earth? Why am I here? How did I get here? What is my design? Do I have a design? Did somebody design me? I think so. A tiny bit of proof. I don't know. It's proof of a fused chromosome. I don't know what else it's proof of. We do have a fused chromosome, for whatever that means. My brain takes that to, that looks very fishy, And now that we understand genetics to a point, we think to ourselves, I can almost even imagine somebody doing that. Isn't that interesting? So, let's see, who am I? Where did we come from? What is my design? Do I even have a design? We have some other practical questions, because I believe that a fuller, clearer understanding, practical understanding of source energy is going to directly lead us to not just, when I say freedom from fossil fuel, it sounds like I'm dissing fossil fuel. And in a way I am, because in a way I believe that it is an idea whose time has passed, and we are not letting it pass. Those who want to hold on to the power that it implies, that's not quite the right word, but those who want to hold on to the power of fossil fuel, their time has passed, and they are artificially they're doing it in a way to the detriment of us all, because there is a better form of energy. There truly is a better form of energy. Do I understand how exactly to tap into it? No, I don't. Do I believe that it is possible to tap into it? Absolutely. You also don't actually have to tap right directly into the Dirac Sea with Casimir plates and or anything as fancy or as deeply comprehensive as that, or comprehending as that. You could just understand that we have a greater complexity in this universe than we have been giving it credit for, and we've been handing all of ourselves over to all of our different parts, where we are born specialists as human beings. That's what we like to do. We are born specialists. So we want to hand off all of the energy work over there to the Department of Energy. We want to hand the communications work over to all the people who specialize in communications, who major in that, in our school system. The school system, which is there to develop the workers of tomorrow that will be engaged in the operations that are current for the day, that are relevant to the people, that keep the project moving forward. Project what? Project Humanity. Who are we? Where did we come from? Well, let's go with who are we right now. The whole thing is who are we? Where did we come from? Why are we here? Actually, I have the whole description of the video, which for the longest time I published these things without a proper... Oh, here I am looking at one without a proper... I was going to read my description. And previously, I had a links list Oh, I know what I have to do. I have to go this way. Go all the way to the end. I had a links list instead of a description. Oh, for crying out loud. Which one is this one? This one does not seem to have... Yesterday's did not get a description put on it. Wow. I'm gonna have to go back and fix that. Nobody's gonna find it. Alright. Oh? Wow. Yeah, I don't know. Never mind. I don't know why it's not opening up my with the description of my video, which says, "Who am I?" Oh, law of attraction. Here we go. Is this the law? You know what? I missed it on one, and then I keep... For crying out loud. I need to go fix that. Who am I is a stream of consciousness discussion of reality. Who am I? Where did I come from? Where are we going? What is source energy? How can a better understanding of ourselves and source energy solve the problems of humanity, free us from fossil fuels, from gravity, and help us create an abundant future for all of us here on planet Earth? It's a discussion combining unified physics, law of attraction, and human psychology, all from a layman's perspective. So that's the description of my show. So obviously it is stream of consciousness, because I'm just learning to just talk about this subject that I am so passionate about, and I can feel it inside myself where these subjects come together. I can feel it in the orb of my own fiery self. I can see these subjects touching one another in really important places that if I could reflect it back out to the outside world, I can see where from the outside these would be very helpful, these concepts. So I was saying, I don't mean to diss fossil fuel. Back in the old days, my description of my video was actually a links list to other videos. And I have a training session tomorrow, hopefully, where I can learn how to embed those videos into the show, hopefully as I create the show. I hope I can do it as I create the show instead. Otherwise, I'm going to have to be like marking down the exact time. But I could do it so much easier from within my studio as I'm doing the show. Right here, as I'm talking about this. So Jeff Bridges narrated a movie called Living in the Future's Past. And if you watch that one, you see how it's a documentary, but it talks about us as a superorganism. And as you watch the show, you kind of can imagine us as a superorganism. Excuse me. And then he talks about us being made of oil because of, and how it has speeded us up. It has raised our energy level from where we were to now we're at a higher energy level. Our life is at a faster pace. Our desires, our reaching for information and our expectation of that information being there, and our reaching for cooperative components in a moving world, and our expectation of those cooperative components being right there ready to go when we are ready to say jump. That has all increased, and all of that speed has increased because of fossil fuel. It's gotten us up to a certain tick. I don't curse this vehicle of fossil fuel that has brought us to this point. I do not curse it. However, its time has come. Its time to end has come. Just like it would not be appropriate if we were running our whole civilization on kerosene and whale oil anymore. it is no longer appropriate for us to be burning fossil fuels upon this planet, for us to continue into the future, into the future, into the future, and it doesn't even make sense that we would need to. Our fossil fuel future is by definition finite, even if we manage to burn it to the very last crisp. We have dug up every store of it everywhere on the planet and dumped it back into the atmosphere. You know, it implies a species that couldn't possibly survive for longer than what? A couple hundred years? That does not even that does not even sound plausible. And is it even that long? 50 years? People have come to think that, past their lifetime is a long time. And I have come to believe that 50 years in the future is not very long. And quite frankly, I'm probably not going to be here at that time. But you can set your consciousness up so that you can see the future. You can think in terms of, your physical brain is so capable of lining up with whatever you want it to line up with. It's a fabulous, fabulous computer. So what do I think the answer is? The answer absolutely is to understand source energy. Now, the movie The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It, and if this was the future, like Friday, maybe, after I've learned how to do this on Thursday, when I do the show right at this moment, now I put a link to this other movie, The Lost Century and How to Reclaim It. That's a documentary talking about over unity. Over unity. What is over unity? It's actually a documentary talking about over unity devices that have been snatched away from humanity by our patent office, by our government, by other forces, by men in black suits driving Escalades. I mean, it really is that kind of stuff. And maybe they're in cahoots with the aliens who know that we are armed and dangerous and we have to get past a certain point in our history before they go, okay, you can be trusted. Because right now we really can't be trusted. We are considered armed and dangerous. And I imagine the aliens they're peeping around the corner of the moons of Jupiter, maybe the moons of Mars, I don't know, maybe even our moon. They're peeping around the corner of our moon, studying us, waiting for the vibrations of our planet to be less jangly. You can tell how we are not getting along with one another because you can feel the agitation. You could probably register it on all kinds of coherence, worldwide coherence detectors, and actually there are such things. The Heart Math Institute has these I should go and study that. I know about this, but I've sort of let everything go. I want the meaningful stuff to come back as I have these discussions in the studio. Some of these important concepts are going to come back to me. What is a coherence monitor? I don't think that's what they call them, but they are random number generators, actually, is what they are. But what happens is these random number generators, and I'm not sure what kind of computers have set these things up and what kind of fields are in play with these random number generators, but what'll happen is when some big, momentous emotional event in the world happens and human emotion starts jacking one way or another. It's happened both with exciting events where the whole world held its breath, and its eyes wide and went, yay, because something happened. And it also happened on 9/11. There's times when the random number generators set around the planet start spitting out numbers that aren't random. And it happens right before these events happen. I need to go study the details of this before I say anything more. But I know that other things affect these kinds of figures. I don't know if mass meditations affect the number generators, but they do affect the rubrics of other things. Anyway, I don't want to get too, I don't want to lose myself. Let me go back to the studio and pause for a second. We've got to do a circle around, back to who am I? Who am I? I got to remember the meaning of my show. It's who am I? It's who are we? It's I'm just riffing in a way in this non-resistant place in my own mind where I put together meaningful concepts that I have run across. And as I am thinking in this way, things come to me. That's what the show is. Who am I? I do want to get us off of fossil fuel, not because I curse fossil fuel, but because it's time. It's no longer an engine of abundance. It is starting to drag on our abundance. It's starting to create scarcity. At first, the abundance that it was creating was, so I have this, my favorite story is this from Still Standing, this orchard in Manitoba that can't afford to stay a business because of costs of energy, costs of technology, costs of labor. But if you could eliminate entirely the cost of energy, I believe that a lot of these family farms would become viable. They would be an engine enough that could produce a good and supply monetary compensation for all the workers involved and enough for the people who are running the place so that they could stay in business, so that they could stay sustainable and sustainably creating this thing. So I'm going to pull that story into this thing that I'm noticing. At first, when we started using fossil fuels and we refined internal combustion engines and refined, we made internal combustion engines better and better, and we refined the fuel to gasoline and whatever, and we started doing collective agriculture. It was a boon. It was creating abundance. But now, if we're living in a paradigm where, because that fossil fuel has become so expensive, now that orchard has to commercially close because it can't afford to stay an orchard. Now you can see that the paradigm of fossil fuel is directly causing lack, not abundance. So you can tell its moment has passed. You can feel. Before, when we were engaged in fossil fuel and, those people in Oklahoma, they're covered in oil and they're dancing, at the wealth and yay, life's going to be good. And then it got better and it did get better and better and better. You could feel. Ask us how we feel about that. Feels good. Move forward. Yes, yes, yes. Thumbs up. Full steam. But this doesn't feel good anymore. It doesn't feel good anymore. It doesn't feel right. It feels like we've been lied to. It feels like we're being asked to be less in order to sustain, go back to our agrarian roots, just give up climate control and the internet and public and transporting ourselves around the planet and talking to people on the other side of the planet and being comfortable in our homes and all of the things that we've grown used to that take what? Energy. What else am I used to? I'm used to going down to a fine, clean grocery store and buying a selection of foods and from all over the world, created by all kinds of people, of fruits and vegetables and nuts and berries and flowers and pickles and wine and all that kind of stuff. Everybody likes that. And it's the supply of it is different depending on where you are, but the general idea is generally the same everywhere you go. And when fossil fuel was an instrument of abundance, yay. But it is not bringing us to abundance anymore. It is now starting to create scarcity by closing the orchards, by the carbon footprint, the death toll, the scarcity. Its time has passed, okay? You may wonder why I've spent so many minutes pussyfooting around pushing against fossil fuel. I actually had somebody listen to me, and that was one of the things they had against what I was saying, is, that I was ungrateful about fossil fuel. And, I hid them from the group. I should have screenshot what he said before, because now I'm answering what he said, and I can't quite remember exactly what he said, but he was being very defensive about fossil fuel, and he's right. He's right from that standpoint. Now, his intentions might have not have been as golden as I'm giving him credit for, but he's right. I shouldn't be pushing back against anything. I don't mean to push back against anything. When you're pushing back, it means you've got the negative in the center of the aperture of your focus, and you're pointing in the wrong direction. And now you're pushing back against something, when the actual best opportunity is to figure out something positive to focus on, and don't push back against anything, but without resistance, just move towards what you want. That's the idea. But that's not what people do. They usually look around in the physical world for something they don't like, and then they go push against it. And they think that's what they should be doing. Well, it has some beneficial effect in the sense that what it accomplishes is it accomplishes a better clarity about the configuration of that thing that we don't want. And the reason that brings us clarity is because it makes the thing you don't want bigger and bigger and bigger until it's really, 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 really clear what you don't want about it. And you know what? There's value there. There is value there. My daughter had a miserable failure of a marriage, you could say, from one standpoint. But you know what? I see that marriage as highly successful, because she got a big, and he wasn't, they didn't hurt each other that much. As a matter of fact, I think they helped each other. I think they massively helped each other. One helped the other get through college. The other one helped the other one get to America. They helped each other so much. They should only think of each other as friends. And yet they think of each other as mortal enemies, and that's crazy. But so in a way, it was an abysmal failure of a marriage, but I think it was a massive success of a marriage, because in one swell foop, she went from being on the fence about practically everything to very clearly understanding what it is so when you get a big mouthful of what you don't want, it becomes clear. You're like, oh, I get reality. This is what I don't want. It's sort of the opposite vibration is what you do want. When you know what you don't want, you know what you do want. And she didn't know what she wanted. She was just kind of like da-di-da-di-da-di-da-di-da through life, not realizing how dangerous it was, how real it is. I have on the one hand tried to impart to my children that it is a joyful, fabulous place to be in life, without explicitly showing them how real it is, how dangerous it is, how I never knew how to do that. Anyway, so I think that marriage was a complete success. You know what you don't want, then you know what you do want. And they walked away without children, without, she could have gotten better financially. She had all the cards, but he bluffed her, told her that he had all the cards, and she was convinced to play them his way. But you know what? It doesn't matter. None of that matters. Who am I? Who am I? And how is knowing who we are going to get us off fossil fuels? Excuse me, I didn't catch the cough button. 2 ways. One is directly plugging into source, directly understanding the actual physics and mathematics of literal source energy, where matter is coming from, how, what the origin of mass and the nature, the very nature of gravity. What's the origin of mass? The origin of mass is this Planck vacuum fluctuation field. This field of Planck oscillators who at any time, depending on what's going on in the field, can come into spin coherence with some sort of event. Different things cause the events. What causes it? Gradient density in the field. And I'm telling you, there's lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of gradient density in the field. The field actually goes from incredibly, incredibly, incredibly dense to incredibly, incredibly, incredibly not dense. You know, all the way from the deeply, densely, real, heavy matter, all the way to profoundly, to vibrational, spiritual, vibrational nature, all the way out to that. Spirit is just a much, 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 much less dense aspect of the same reality that the dense stuff is. And it's all vibrational. What's the origin of mass? It's this Planck field. What's the nature of gravity? What's causing that curve? What's causing the curvature of mass? I mean, the curvature of space. The correlation of the curvature of space to the mass that Einstein noticed. Ooh, look at that. Big masses have this effect of curving the space around it. That's what Einstein noticed, and he drew the equations based on that. But the actual, and that's where gravity is coming from. That curvature of the space is causing, like, you see the picture of like the ball sitting on the trampoline or whatever, curving the space like that. That's, well, what's curving the space is the spin. The spin. Individual and collective. The spin is what's curving the space. And when that object has a huge momentum and a lot of spin going with it, it's not just the planet spinning. The whole field is spinning. The whole field is like the coffee in the cup that you've taken the spoon and made a spin. The space is like the coffee, and the stuff, the planets and the stars and the stuff that we see as matter, that's like the cream in the coffee. You drop in a few drops of cream and you can see them, they're spinning with but the whole coffee is spinning. When you have a large momentum of mass spinning, making that planet or whatever, it causes the space around it to curve because the field is spinning. That's what's doing it. That's what gravity is. And when you deeply, deeply, deeply understand this, and then when you do the math, it turns out that what's holding the particles together within an atom, that force within the atom is actually gravity. It is gravity, and the reason that the gravity is so strong right there is because every one of those protons within that atom is a freaking black hole spinning its force. That gravity is really, really strong in there, as that little vortex of Planck's spin into that that pattern of coherence, that coherent pattern of spin, that little vortex of spin. And it's more than that. Within the vortex of the spin of that proton, within that the Planck field of the spin of that proton is represented every proton in the universe is reflected in the Planck field of that single proton, of every proton, by the way. Every proton is reflecting all the information of all the other protons in all of the universe. Did you know that? And it's really interesting that it does that. From a more spiritual perspective, it helps me to understand how it is possible that my inner being, without leaving me, without going out into the universe and, looking around away from me, how is it that my inner being knows everything? Well, she knows everything because it's all present in the Planck field of my atomic structure. She does not have to leave my atomic structure to know everything that she needs to know about everything going on everywhere in the universe, because she can read the Planck field. She can read it. All the information is there. It's easy for me now to believe that my inner being can know everything because the information is there. Also, when I understand how this information is being transferred around the universe. What information am I talking about? The universe, all of the information, all of it, literally the allness with a capital A, is being transferred up and down all the scales, updated, because things are moving and changing. Things heat up, other things cool down, some things speed up, other things slow down, some things are going right and they get righter and righter and righter, and other things go left and go lefter and lefter and lefter. Some things go big bang together and other things coalesce and come together in a all kinds of things are happening. And so if you want to have an accurate read on the information, you have to have an update. Now. How does that happen? How does that happen? Well, it's because the Planck field is reverberating. It's total information across all the scales through this jiggle, this source jiggle of space-time. What do I mean by source jiggle of space-time? Well, the source of all the information, of all the energy is, and I'm going to say this in a funny way, but I do it advisedly, it's everything interacting with everything all the time. Right now. All at once. Everything. That's what source energy is, and that's why it's not, the source of it isn't over there or over here or in back of me or in front of me or up. It's not that or that or that or that. It is that and that and that and that. It's everywhere. It's everything interacting with everything, and so the source is everywhere. And when you know that there is a physics, a physical understanding that brings you to this position, now you can start scratching your head and pondering about the deeper realities of the philosophy and spirituality and religion that you have been taught or not taught, or, exposed to or not exposed to. It's everywhere. And in all kinds of different forms, Catholic and Protestant and Buddhist and Jewish and atheist and, every native, indigenous mythologies and cultures and world religion mythologies and cultures and all of it. The way I see all of that is analogous to the blind men and the elephant. And I mean this in a profound, profound way. The blind men and the elephant, they're all standing at different points on the elephant. One's by the trunk saying, it's just like a snake. One's by the tail going, it's kind of more like a rope. And one's over by the ear saying, it's like a sail. By the body, no, like a wall. Somebody's over by a foot going, it's much more like a tree. When in actual fact, so if all of them are arguing about what it is, then we've got a problem. Because they're all right, but they are all incomplete. And so if every human being looking at their spirituality, philosophy, religion from their position is looking at that elephant and arguing with anybody else about it, then they are wrong. If they are believing and having faith in their own religion and with credulity trying to input the religion of others in order to truly allow and understand what they're really looking at, the meaning of the allness, the meaning of this great totality of matrixed energy that we all share with one another. If we're doing that, then I can't remember which one I'm on. If we're arguing, then it's a problem. We need to be adding it up for a fuller understanding, because every one of those men at the elephant was right, but it was incomplete. The complete picture is when you add them all up. That is where God is. God is in the addition point, not in the subtraction point. Humans tend to hang out in the subtraction point, but that subtraction point can get carried away. And while it might be all right that you are allowed to shoo the mice out of your home, it is not allowed that you kill all the mice in the world, or even all the cockroaches in the world. You're allowed to ban them from your home, but you are not allowed to kill things. You're not allowed to subtract things in the universe. So you don't have to be Jewish. You don't have to convert. But you are not allowed to try to exterminate all the please. Oh my gosh, somebody could take that so wrong. I am not comparing Jews to cockroaches. Oh my gosh, that sounds so terrible. What I'm saying is that anyone is allowed to have the preferences that they have, but they are not allowed to push out into the field and affect it into the outside way, affecting others. That's just not allowed. It's not allowed. I can have a preference for city folk as opposed to hillbilly country folk or whatever. Oh, please do not anybody ever take that out of context. First she said this, and then she said that. Well, the deep preponderance of all of my work, I shouldn't worry about anybody taking me out of context. I mean, you can be taken out of context for a minute, it's true. And somebody could use your work. But I'm really nobody. Nobody's going to take my stuff out of context. Who am I? I don't even tell anybody my name on this show. I could tell somebody my name. I think it might be attached to my YouTube channel somewhere. It's not really a secret. It's just that when I do this show, I don't want my ego to be forward-facing on this. Someday, somebody's going to figure out who I am. They're going to be interested enough in what I have said. And the things that I have said are going to be known enough that somebody's going to say, hey, I want her on my podcast. She's just over there doing her own podcast. How dare she have a podcast where she doesn't even need guests? She just gets to sit over there and do her own podcast, talking to herself for hours on end. So, news coming up for the show. Tomorrow I have my training session, and so I'm hoping that come Friday or Saturday, my show gets a little slicker. My description is better, and a little more in tune, so that and flexibly so that I can kind of nudge a few more people over into the room. I would like a few more people. I don't need tons and tons of people as I work out my craft. But as I get better and better at what I do, I'd kind of like more people in the room listening. I think that'd be great. Do I want to start a new religion? No. Not unless it's a religion of individuality. It's not a religion of us coming together and meeting somewhere and doing all this together. We can meet on the internet, and but as far as every individual having to call their own shot, I think this is sacredly important. Sacredly important. The only advice I want anyone ever to take from me is know thyself. Understand your configuration. Get into alignment. And then from there, take whatever impulses, whatever positive impulses that you can take from there, take it. And when it starts to feel bad, back off. Care about yourself. Know that how you feel in any given moment as you take impulses from your source is the most important thing that you could do. Taking care of how you feel. Because when you are in a state of negative emotion, you are actually doing a different thing. You are creating a negative energy field that all of us have to deal with. Now, maybe it's just a little one. Maybe it's just a little blip of one that nobody is even going to notice. You scowled at somebody. But if you took off in your negative self and you started acting, you and others are going to suffer the chaotic consequences. But you're going to suffer them too. It's not just going to be the guy that you're focusing on who did the bad thing that you are justified in doing your thing, but that's because he did his thing. You're the one who's going to jail because you carved your initials into his leather seats. Oh, she didn't carve her initials. She carved her whole damn name. Well, try to explain to the cops that it wasn't you that did it. So funny. Who am I? Who am I? Anyway, Abraham calls us, so we are some things that most of the time we don't think of ourselves as, but I think it would be helpful to kind of lean this way. We are the otters of the universe. How about that one? We are the playful otters of the universe. What human beings really want is they want to play. They want to play with each other. They want to play with each other on the high seas, on big ships and small. They want to play with each other in theme parks and in restaurants. They want to play with each other on golf courses and on football fields. They want to play with each other on poker tables and volleyball courts, and we just want to play. We want to play with each other. And we want to get to a place where more of us can more play. And I actually believe that that is what the true meaning of automation and AI is. It's not all the sinister things. Although the sinister things are possible, the more you focus on those sinister things, the more those sinister things come into being, and the more that the positive aspects of it recede farther and farther into the distance, and it becomes farther for us to be in the moment where we can implement those positive things, because we're still dealing with all of the negative possibilities. All of the negative possibilities, for instance, of over-unity. There are negative possibilities, and I'll tell you what those negative possibilities are. Kingdoms and tribes and warlords and cults and little groups, little compounds and militias and whatever going off into the wilderness, now armed with free, clean energy, all they can use. And the thing is we have to understand our positive and negative selves. We have to come to understand our positive and negative psychology, who we really are, what our positive and negative self really is, and how important it is to pay attention to your state of being and don't act in serious. You can act in a very small way if you have to be your negative self in little tiny ways in order to, clarify some things, maybe. But what you want to get away from is acting on your negative self. Do not act when you are in a state of negative emotion. Sit on your hands and wait until you have thought it through and you know who you are and you know what your intention is and you have found a positive to focus on, and now from that position you're going to move forward. This is a much different way than we are taught to do it. The thing is that the other way works, but it works generationally. It doesn't necessarily work for you. When you bang around in the negative and whine, and you rest in your negative, you are creating a larger recognition of a positive that needs to be reached for. But if you often it is your children or your grandchildren that are going to benefit from that. That war that you fought, where the whole world turned to bloody hell. And then maybe for, a few decades after that, everybody is cantankerous and suspicious, agitated and agitating, imagining that we're still living on those old paradigms. That goes on for a little while too. But the true peace is going to be reaped by the children. I'm getting into places where, although I know that what I'm saying is true to what I'm saying, I'm getting into a territory where I'm starting to say words where people can misinterpret what I'm saying and go, I disagree with you. We have had war forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And why has it never stopped us until now? Well, I'll tell you why. Because last century, we had a shit show beyond any of humanity's previous imaginings as to what a shit show could be. Where I think I have heard 60 million people died in World War II. Over the whole century, some 200 million. Did I say trillion? I meant million. 60 million people died in World War II, and some 200, 100. When you get past 100 million people, who's counting? When you get past 10 million people, who's counting? The fact is that World War II, or as I like to call it, the World War Parts 1 and 2, because I don't think we can ever afford, ever afford to do that again. We'll turn the planet into a cinder. The ecological consequences are unacceptable. Unacceptable. And the point is also, this is all not necessary anymore. Because you know what? We did it. It happened. We recorded it really intensely. The psychology of the whole thing, how that whole thing played out. And I think the really most interesting part of that whole story is the Hitler part of it. And the German people part of it. And what that whole philosophy, that whole right-wing authoritarian strongman philosophy, how it was allowed to play out all the way to the very, 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 very bitter end. It really was. We fought the shit out of World War II. We did not need to take that any farther. World War I ended with an armistice. People saying, okay, I surrender. That's not exactly what happened. They didn't surrender. They wouldn't surrender. Long after the war was lost, they kept fighting, all the way until you could not say that we didn't fight that to the end. Although there are some people who come from the bigoted side of that philosophy who might say, oh, the reason that we still have problems on the planet Earth is because we didn't finish the job. Now that's the monstrous truth about what they are going to say about that. There are still shithole countries and shithole people. And I'm here to tell you right now that that's just not true. There is no such thing as a human being who is not supposed to be here. Because who brought them here is the wholeness, the allness. God himself brought us all here. If you are here, you are meant to be here because we all equal a wholeness, a oneness. We are all part of an integral wholeness. And we are vibrational beings. And so the ones who are good or bad doesn't have anything to do with blood or genetics or any of that sort of thing. What it has to do with is those who are in a chronic state of alignment or misalignment. Those who are bad are actually in a chronic state of misalignment. They are misaligning with the reality of the field around them, and that's why they are creating chaos and disorder. They might even be trying to create order as they do it. Order in triplicate, in lockstep, in groupthink. But they are actually creating the disorder of the order on the one hand of the concentration camps and the horrific disorder of those same camps, illustrated beautifully for all to see what the spirit problem is. And what I'm saying is we did that once and we documented it very well. And now we understand who humanity is and what he can do. And how seriously dead effing serious that it gets when the momentum of that misalignment goes all the way to the end. We don't need to do it again. We just need to understand what we already have learned and assimilate it through the rest of humanity, through the rest of the group, so that we all better understand who we are. And I'm not saying that we should all, I think we should have a proper respect for how powerfully monstrous human beings can be. And the way to fix it is to focus on how powerfully wonderful human beings also can be. And what's the difference? It's not the difference between good and bad people. It's the difference between aligned and not aligned philosophies within the order of your own physical brain. How have you ordered it in your physical brain? Do you believe that that we are living in a that it's all about competition? That the primary focus and that the primary action going on in the field at any given time is competition? Do you think it's a zero-sum game where we all compete for finite pie? Is that what you think? Well, if that's the way you think, then that's the way you're lining up. And the problem is that's not the way the field is lining up. The field is lining up under the heading of most cooperative. The most cooperative out there is the one who is going to get most elements as their cooperative components to whatever their individual venture is. And so those at the top cooperate. Those at the bottom are the ones competing for the scraps at the bottom. The real action is going on at the top in coherence and cooperation and the recognition of we are all in this together and finding the win-win-win-win-win-win-win paradigm where my winning involves an enormous organization of other human beings winning. Actually, I think that's probably what the problem, that's if we elect the autocrat, that's going to be why. Because he actually has a big organization of people who are going to get all kinds of spoils when he gets in because he's a grifter. He's a smash and grabber. And, you know, I am not the biggest fan of Loki and Shiva energy. Shiva is the destroyer. Shiva is the power, that energy that brings down coherent order, that smashes things that are in an order. But we have to understand that we allowed that Shiva energy into the field. How do you do it? How is Shiva energy allowed in the field? How does it build up? How does it... It comes from... Oh, I could talk so long about this one. And I believe that what I'm talking about is a literal, energetic, mathematic, in physics, in electrophysics, magnetoelectrophysics. I don't think there is such a thing. But what I'm saying is that I mean it literally. When you get your soul, when you get your physical self turned backwards to the direction your soul is going, your soul is headed forward, 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 only forward. Your soul is only going forward because your soul is that pure positive vibrational aspect of yourself that combines with everybody else's pure vibrational positive aspect of themselves. That's who your soul is. It's that pure vibration moving forward, looking forward. And so your soul's moving forward. The question is, what direction are you moving? Are you looking backwards and all balled up in something from behind you instead of just purely looking forward? Now, actually, your ability to look backward in the past is helpful to your soul. It's helpful to your soul's mission. Oh, I see it's after 7 o'clock. I also see that I am an hour and 12 minutes in. It makes me want to do a marathon because I just get started and I could talk and 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 talk. I could explain everything all the way down to the ground and all the way up to the sky. And I find it so exciting because I think that this is who we are. And because it is who we are, we have a very positive future in front of us. We all have inner beings, and all of our inner beings are interlocked with one another. The truth about the way the grid actually flows and runs and spins is actually all good news. We can use it to fuel our civilization going forward. We don't have to plug into fossil fuel. We can plug into source energy. Now, that the movie Lost Century and How to Reclaim It, they have devices doing it all kinds of ways. There's some guy who he tunes his into the magnetic field of the earth. I hope I didn't already say this today. I know I mentioned this yesterday. As I get... oh man, I know what my Alzheimer's is going to start looking like someday. My dementia when I'm 102 is just going to be me I have all these things that I say, and there's going to be about 100 of them, and they're going to be great. But I'm going to be able to say them no matter who's in front of me. So all of a sudden it almost doesn't matter who's in front of me. And so I'm going to be like, did I say this to you? Or did I say that this tip. I can't remember if I was talking to you or if I was talking to your sister or if I was talking to, Sorry if that doesn't sound personal enough. Anyway, who am I? Who am I? And how does this better understanding get us to where we want to be? Well, when we are off fossil fuel and on this energy source that is literally everywhere, and everyone, no matter whether they have first world infrastructure or third world infrastructure, it isn't going to matter. They're going to have clean, free energy wherever they are and an understanding of the actual nature of gravity. And it's going to be an equalizing force like you would not believe. It's also going to be an injection of energy, literal energy, into the system. And then now, armed with free, clean energy everywhere, and everyone knowing who we are and that we're all in this together, we get on about the business of getting on with business. And all the little family orchards that want to go out and, grow apples and put it on the human market, grow goat cheese, have their little herd of gourmet goats that give them angora for sweaters and milk for cheese and all of that. We can create a world, a better world of better abundance. Right now, I think what we're in the throes of, and we're going to be, this is the next chapter, this is what's unfolding right now. As we move from where we are in fuel use to where we're gonna be in fuel use and reality understanding. We're at this place in fuel use and reality understanding, and we're gonna hit this other level. And in the meantime, we're gonna have to come face to face with who we are in psychology. Because whoever wins this election, this country is very evenly split. And half of the country is going to be angry and frightened. And likely trying to act on their anger and their fright. This is not a good formula. People acting on anger and fright is not a good formula. You want people acting on their love, their inspiration, their good ideas about what would be great, what would be better, not their actions of defense and, trying to stop or control others or whatever we're in for. We're in for a wild ride. I know we are. I'm going to try not to pay attention to it today, but I think some of it's probably going to slip through. And then tomorrow and the next day, I'm sure a lot of the news is going to leak through. And I am one of all of us, so I will be looking along with all of you. But I'm going to try to keep my eye to the longer frame, to what's actually happening and where we are, how this is actually always all working out for us, even if it doesn't look like on the surface. So tomorrow's my training session, but tomorrow's show is going to be just as backwards as today's, without any high-tech embedded videos or better descriptions or anything like that. But look forward to that in the near future. Also, if you have podcasts feeding to you on podcast feeds, it's possible you may be able to find my podcast on your feed here. And my podcast is just this. It's just my YouTube channel. I'm going to be doing this every morning. Every morning I will be broadcasting, "Good morning, planet Earth!" Something like that. In any case, until tomorrow, stay cool, do your best, pay attention to how you feel. It really does matter. And you matter. Every one of us matters. So, until tomorrow, as always, may that source ever and always be with you.